for a trip around the moon is the chief of the guided missile development at the United States Army's Redstone Arsenal, Dr. Wernher von Braun.
A voyage around the moon must be made in 2 phases.
This is Wernher von Braun. Known by many as the father of space travel, his past is a lot darker than you'd think. In 1932, the German army offered von Braun insane money to build rockets as weapons, and he took the deal. The next year, Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany. And to be clear, von Braun would later join the Nazi Party, and then the SS itself. He always claimed that it was the price of doing his work, that refusing would have ended his career. This is how a Nazi became the foundational genius of NASA. Under Hitler, Braun's work moved to a secret base on the Baltic coast, Peenemünde. And there, Braun's team built something the world had never seen, the A4, the first long-range guided ballistic missile in history. On October 3, 1942, it launched, arced up, and in doing so, became the first human-made object ever to cross the edge of space. But by then, it was no longer von Braun's spaceship. Hitler had renamed it Vergeltungswaffe 2, the Vengeance Weapon 2. Starting in September of 1994, they fell on London and Antwerp with no warning at all. The explosion arrived long before you could hear it coming. Around 9,000 people were killed. The V-2 was too complex to mass produce in factories that Allied bombers could reach, so the SS moved production underground, into a network of tunnels in the Harz Mountains called Mittelwerk. And the labor came from a concentration camp dug into the same hillside. Tens of thousands of prisoners were worked to death in the dark, starved, beaten, hanged for sabotage in front of others as a warning. Roughly 1 in 3 of the 60,000 people sent to this camp never came out alive. Von Braun visited Mittelwerk. He walked the tunnels and understood the conditions. And decades later, he said he had been powerless to change them. And walking away meant the end of the only work he had ever cared about. And yet, he wasn't a true believer either. In 1944, the Gestapo arrested him. His crime? Saying out loud at a party that Germany was going to lose, and that what he really wanted to build was a spaceship. He sat in a cell for 2 weeks, and was only released because the regime still needed his mind. Spring 1945. The Third Reich is collapsing, and von Braun makes the most calculated decision of his life. He has a choice of who to surrender to: the Soviets closing in from the east, or the Americans from the west. So he gathers his team, hides 14 tons of blueprints in an abandoned mineshaft, and goes deliberately looking for the US Army, because he knew exactly what he was worth. And America turned out to want him pretty badly, which is how one of the strangest operations of the 20th century began: Operation Paperclip. The United States secretly brought around 1,600 German scientists and engineers to America. President Truman had explicitly ordered that no active Nazis and no war criminals be brought into the country. So the intelligence officers running Paperclip did something very simple. They rewrote the files. Nazi Party memberships vanished. SS ranks disappeared. The security report that had flagged von Braun as a potential threat was quietly edited into a portrait of a harmless idealist. They sent him to Huntsville, Alabama, and then, America did something genuinely remarkable. It fell in love with him. In 1955, Walt Disney put him on television. Von Braun, the smiling face of Man in Space, explaining to American families how we would one day reach the moon. And he got everything he had bargained for. He became director of NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center. He built the Saturn V, 36 stories tall, still one of the most powerful machines ever flown. And on July 20th, 1969, his rocket put a man on the moon. He was celebrated as an American hero until the day he died in 1977. Ultimately, Wernher von Braun's legacy is deeply divided. After a V-2 hit London, he reportedly called it a perfect success, except for landing on the wrong planet. His ambition was always the stars, not the war. But ambition doesn't erase the cost. Roughly 20,000 forced laborers died building V-2s in the camp that made his rocket possible. Von Braun faced real danger too, though nothing close to what those prisoners endured. His fear may explain the choices he made, but it doesn't excuse them. He spent the rest of his life reaching for something bigger, and 18 years later, helped put humanity on the moon. Maybe that's the honest way to hold him. A brilliant man, trapped in a system that made greatness and atrocity inseparable.
Science has a real surprise for the skeptics. Science, for instance, tells us that nothing in nature, not even the tiniest particle, can disappear without a trace. Think about that for a moment. Once you do, your thoughts about life will never be the same. Science has found that nothing can disappear without a trace. Nature does not know extinction. All it knows is transformation. Now, if God applies this fundamental principle to the most minute and insignificant parts of his universe, doesn't it make sense to assume that he applies it also to the masterpiece of his creation, the human soul? I think it does.
Right there. No, I've never put a flag up in the moon before. We got a beautiful picture of you guys up down there.